Hey, Andy.
How you doing, Patrick?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. How are you? How are
You
you
worked
today?
you worked out the lighting. It looks great.
Yeah, I worked out the lighting. I'm in a spare bedroom. That's the kind of thing that we're all doing these days, right?
Making do.
So we have humongous show today. Humongous show. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite dark rides. And, waiting in the rings, we have Jason. Let's go ahead and bring Jason on right now. We're live coast to coast.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
So good. So, Jason, you're hunkered down. You're in LA, I presume.
I am, yes. I'm in the middle of nowhere, LA. Like so far out of LA, it's not LA anymore.
Oh, where's that?
It's just north of Santa Clarita, so I'm
okay.
in like desert country land.
Almost Bakersfield at that point, or are we?
Not that far, no, but it's definitely far enough where everyone around me has horses.
And not quite Palmdale.
Yeah.
So, well, welcome to the Themed Entertainment Design Lockdown Show. We started this 5 weeks ago, I guess. Just a way to get together on once a week, talk about the industry a little bit since everyone's in quarantine, and why not? So, thanks for joining us. Now, how do you know? I met you many years ago.
Yeah.
People out in LA, and I know you know Andy. So, like, what's your story? What do you do for work? How are you involved in the themed entertainment industry?
Yeah, so I am a creative director. I work for Thinkwell Group, creative director and art director. I started a long time ago, probably 17 years ago, at Imagineering, actually. I was an intern in graphic design, and just over the years kind of grew through different positions, became a concept designer and show writer, and I've done kind of a lot of different things, jumping around and putting on a lot of different hats, and that sort of led me into creative directions. So yeah, now I get to do a lot of things. I get to work on lagoon shows with Andy and get to do dark rides, theme parks, cruise ships, all sorts of things. So, but dark rides, that's my bread and butter. That's my favorite thing to work on. So perfect show for me. This is it's gonna be fun.
So, do you have a favorite project that's been announced that you can claim that you worked on that you're most proud of?
Everyone says that your favorite project is your most recent, but that really is the case for me. I think I've always wanted to do nighttime spectaculars. I always wanted to work on those types of shows. Over the last couple of years, I was fortunate to direct the two lagoon shows for Universal, that the two latest ones. So Universal Cinematic Celebration down in Florida, and then also directed the Halloween version that we launched last year, Halloween Marathon of Mayhem, which both of those were super fun. The latter I got to work on with Andy. Andy did some of the music composition for that. But yeah, getting to work with fireworks and fountains and all of that is just, it's unbelievable. So definitely my favorite recently.
Yeah, that's a whole topic for another show. So we'll have to talk about that Marathon of Mayhem. I go to Halloween Horror Nights. Like, I get the frequent fear pass. I go almost every week. So I definitely watched that show a lot. So
awesome.
Great job. Really enjoyed it. That's really fun. So we'll have to talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But, we started the show, Jason, just to kind of even talk about the news in general. So we did have some news that we could just chat about. Andy, do you want to take it away a little bit and chat about what you saw?
Sure. I just saw that Robert Niles posted this news to Theme Park Insider. Six Flags announcing they're going to require advanced reservations to visit their parks, which is one of the things that I think we predicted right at the beginning of our show some weeks ago, and that we expect Disney and Universal to maybe do as well. So they haven't announced anything in terms of like details other than it's going to be an online reservation requirement with date-specific tickets on an as yet unlaunched online system. So I mean, we'll see how that unfolds. I mean, I still think it's going to be months before any of the parks will open. So I think they got time. I'm sure they're working furiously on getting that working though right now.
Yeah, a lot of people thinking through that problem right now, and I think it's going to be different. I mean, I think theme parks are going to be definitely very different than they were before. But how do you take a social experience, which is a theme park, and evolve it into something that fits this kind of new model? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it evolves.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's I'll be honest with you guys. I went to Six Flags right after the American Dream Park opened, like the opening weekend. Me and my boss, we went over for like a research trip to Six Flags Great Adventure, and they had like 5 different queues set up for how you enter and how many different. it was like going on an airline almost. Like you had the platinum pass people, the regular pass, the gold pass, this pass, and I'm not going to say it was excessive, but it was getting to that point where I was just kind of confused. And I'm a theme park guy, and I was like, wow, okay, how do I even get in here? So now they're going to put a a reservation system on there. It's like, what are they going to require to enter? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
interesting. So, well, that's the day's news. We talked about last week. We talked quite a bit about what theme parks we're going to do when we reopen. So you can go back to that episode. We had Michael Libby on last week. But today we're going to talk about all of our favorite dark rides, which is actually a fun topic, right? So one thing that for me, I'm not sure if it's the same for you guys, but I can't. It's really hard for me to pick like my favorite dark ride. Like I have to at least do like a top 3 or a top 5 to even start the conversation.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like a loose parameters and it's just favorite, it's like, well, what do you mean favorite? Like how do you define that? And we even honed in that we meant, not dark rides, or I'm sorry, not boat rides, because I did disqualify one of Andy's responses. So we're talking, a mechanism pulling through a area, and traditional dark rides as much as we can, but obviously we know there's different ways of doing that. So, Jason, I will say when I saw your first one, it brought a smile to my face. So let's go ahead and start with that one.
Yeah. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Fire in the Hole at Silver Dollar City. It's an attraction that's near and dear to my heart. It's an attraction that so when you're talking about favorite dark rides, right? There's a lot of different categories you can put them in. There's some that are just good dark rides, like good storytelling all the way through. There's some that are just like really weird and bizarre, and you like them because they're weird and bizarre. Mm-hmm. Fire in the Hole kind of fits in both of those categories. It's an interesting story, and it's kind of a classic storytelling inside of a great theme park, actually one of my favorite theme parks. But it's also just weird and bizarre and hasn't really been updated in a very long time. And so kind of like Knott's, it had that sort of old school charm to it. So the ride was built in 1972. Basically, the story, trying to sum it up in a short little package. So Branson was kind of built by these caves in the region where people started to have these shows and everything. Basically, Branson was a region where people mined for bat poop, and bat poop was a big industry in the region. There was kind of this gang in the region called the Bald Knobbers who created a lot of problems in the town growing up. They ended up burning down the original town, Marmaris, which was the original town in that region. And so this attraction is about that. It's about that original mining town that Silver Dollar City in that region was built on, and the Bald Knobbers coming and essentially burning down this town. So very lively, happy story to form a dark ride around. But essentially you're becoming a volunteer firefighter going through this attraction, and the image you're looking at is actually the front facade of this attraction. And I thought it was interesting. They took this big sort of monolithic show building, kind of broke it up into these multiple facades before a lot of people started doing that. But you can't actually tell how big this sort of 3.5-story tall building is when you're walking up to it, but it's actually pretty massive. But the attraction itself is kind of a hybrid between dark ride and roller coaster. So you kind of go in and you get on this homemade roller coaster, which from what I understand was actually kind of a homemade design that Herschen Family Entertainment built at the time. But also they worked with Aerodynamics to build it. So Aerodynamics actually built a lot of the structure for the attraction, did some of the engineering and everything. So but yeah, you kind of go through and the whole attraction is almost this sort of spiraled powered coaster as you're going up and passing scenes of the Bald Knobbers trying to kill you essentially, and burning down the town and stealing people's pants and doing all sorts of weird things. And then it ends with this. You kind of go down this big splashdown into water, and literally water is what stops the train from going downhill and everything. So mild attraction. The next image you had is one of the Bald Knobbers. So again, very creepy looking people. Like this is nightmare fuel right here. Yeah. But you go through and these guys are essentially terrorizing the town. So Yeah. Oh, and then it ends with this classic sort of gag of the painting with the foot coming out of it. Has nothing to do with the rest of the attraction, but like somebody thought this was a good idea, so they threw it in, and there you go. Much simpler times. And this is the real Paul Knobbers. This is a true story. So this is that is what one of those creepy dudes looks like.
Man, when you took me to Silver Dollar City, it not only did it become one of my favorite parks in the country, but boy, was that a weird ride.
Yeah.
I mean, I never experienced anything like that. I mean, even Knott's is very tame compared to that. You know, I think the closest analog that I'd been on was the Calico Mine ride or the log ride. But like, yeah, this homespun, folksy dark ride about a super local legend.
Yeah. It's like, and it's like a weird hybrid of like Calico and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
You know, but in the middle of the country, right? In the middle of nowhere, and with this like super local legend. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
They have another they have kind of not a clone, right, but a different version of it at Dollywood.
Yeah, Dollywood has that one opened I think 10 years later, so they had time to improve it, I guess. But they opened up basically a similar ride system and everything there too. So
yeah, the story might be a little different. I kind of remember. I went on a big coaster trip and I went on it. So yeah, when everyone sent me this list, they had a very curated, very deep, in depth, and I feel like mine's a little more, you know, meat and potatoes. But I stand by it. Let me just pull some things around here.
Yeah, I have a bunch of qualifiers on mine too. So,
so I'm a big fan of Pooh's Honey Hunt. So there's a couple of attractions that I've been on in my life and where I've gotten off of it and just been kind of stunned about what I just witnessed. And Pooh's Honey Hunt is definitely one of them. I actually like filmed my reaction going on it. So for those that don't know what Pooh's Honey Hunt is, it's at Tokyo Disneyland. I believe it opened in around 99 or 2000s, around that period. I didn't prepare in any way for this. So what's really fantastic about this is that, you know, it really put the storytelling and the ride vehicles really over the top with it. And this is probably one of the largest use of at least mainstreaming trackless dark rides. We had wire guided rides and you know, for a few different ride systems throughout the years, but this being a location based LPS, location based you know, navigation or whatever it was called, could go around different scenes, and you go out in a set of 3, and then when you're going throughout the scenes, they're going to different areas and seeing different gags. And this was like 20 years ago, and you know, just now we're starting to get trackless ride vehicles at Disney and domestically.
yeah.
There's so many. Sorry, go ahead, Danny. No, you were saying, yeah, okay. And there's so many fun gags that happen on this ride, like the Tigger moment where you're bouncing with them, and the show sets are just so fantastic. Like, it reminds me of Splash Mountain with the scale of it. Everywhere you look, it's 360. And then, of course, you have the Heffalump and Woozle scene where, you know, there's a ride vehicle that's being used in the center by characters. Mm-hmm. So there's the quality of this attraction's over the top. There's different routes that you take, you know, and it's truly remarkable. The details are fantastic. I was hoping to get something like this domestically, and you know, we're getting close, but I just love this ride, and I'm happy it exists out there.
Yeah, ride system wise was ahead of its time a little bit. I mean, this ride system, or this attraction really showed everybody what that trackless system could do. Before then, everyone was like, well, you know, is it worth the expense of that type of ride system? But this showed all the nonlinear paths and everything you can do with it. And it took a while before people really adapted that into other attractions. So it really was kind of a groundbreaking thing at the time.
Yeah.
And then we got the dollar store version of Disneyland.
No comment on that, but
a lot of people dog that ride. A lot of people hate the Disneyland version, but I actually like it. If anything, it's air conditioning for a few minutes. But
yeah,
I actually, funny story. So I was like, it closed like September 9th. The Country Bears closed September 9th, 2001, and it opened up like a year and a half or 2 years later in 2003, I think. And I went during the soft opening period with my cousin. And we went on like 33 times in one day. We just kept going on and off. There was no line, and we just were doing it for goose. So I've been on that ride a lot of times. it's fun. It's just a very different story than the one in Poohs Honey Hunt. And also, what's the challenge about that ride, and why I think the one in Florida is more successful, is that when you put it over Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, where you don't have necessarily reach envelope issues and you can get things to be a lot closer, the Fantasyland, that can just get more charm in it, and you can get away with a lot more. And when show sets start getting further and further away, they start to lose their charm, and you have to really work around that, in my point of view. So I think that's kind of like the biggest thing that they had to overcome when they created that ride.
Yeah.
But Andy, it's up to you now to share all about this motion gate attraction.
The Dragon Gliders at Motion Gate in Dubai opened with the rest of the park it opened I think a year after the park opened with the DreamWorks box at Motion Gate in 2017, and was creative directed by my friend Zane Yench. And I got a chance to go on it about a year and a half ago, and actually almost 2 years ago, when I was out for the Warner Brothers World opening, and I went on this with Dave Cobb and Jason Harvard. And man, I was just completely enchanted by that land, if you want to call it that, and specifically this ride, which uses the land in a really unique way. You know, it's a Mac powered floorless coaster that has, you know, a dark ride section and then a coaster section at the end, and it's short and sweet. You know, I think the whole thing from load to unload is less than 4 minutes. One of the things I love about it is that it uses good animatronics and media in combination in really clever ways, and miniature show sets, forced perspective show sets leading into media, like in that scene there. And then the finale, right after this scene that you're showing here, the finale, you turn to your left and then you soar over the land in this sort of victory lap with, you know, the beautiful John Powell score from the first movie. And I was just blown away by just like how much emotion it managed to pack into this tiny little package of, you know, like a small scale dark ride coaster. You know, it helps that I was a fan of the franchise and especially a fan of the music.
Yeah.
So the music resonated a lot with me, and the way that it was used when you come out and do the victory lap over that land was just really cool. And then the spiral down at the end. I think there's a picture of that, the last of the dragon pictures. That spiral down around those two figures of Toothless and Burke, I think is his name.
Let's see if I have that. Hold on.
There. But that final spiral down, it's another emotional moment, and you know, it's, you know, there's like maybe, you know, 10 scenes in the whole ride, you know, but no, I really loved it. I just was so charmed by it, and it was certainly a treat in a otherwise, you know, desert of good options at Motion Gate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's two things to talk about with that one. I mean, the mock ride system, first of all, is like one of my favorite ride systems ever. I wish we could use it more. It's on the expensive side as far as ride systems go, but man, is it such a dynamic storytelling device and everything. But I mean, it's only as good as the story you tell too, though. And they told a great story. It was done super well. All the pieces of that really came together. The other version of that ride system, the Arthur ride at Europa Park, is also an incredible sort of experience. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, as with all these rides, you know, like, you know, I wanted to go, you know, a little bit of a deeper cuts, you know, rather than the usual like Pirates Mansion, you know, the staples, the meat and potatoes, as you said.
That's my gig. Yeah. So next up, this, you know, Jason, you picked probably the most infamous or the most legendary Disney attraction that went extinct ever known. And that is, of course, Horizon. So take us. I think I went on this ride once. I only went to Walt Disney World like late 90s, and it may or may not have been open. I think it's like a weird dream in my head that I may or may not have gone on it. I don't remember for sure. But paint us a word picture along with these pictures that we have of one of your favorite rides.
You know, it's funny because so I teach at CalArts, and I have a lot of students who were born like way later than I am comfortable with now. And some of these students swear that they've gone on this attraction, but they were born in like 2001. I'm like, that's not possible. But
Exactly.
Horizons, if I had to name like my top 5 dark rides, Horizons would definitely be probably in the top 3. Carousel of Progress is probably my favorite attraction of all time, and Horizons is sort of loosely considered the sequel to Carousel. But yeah, Horizons actually, it opened up a year after Epcot opened, so it was part of the Phase 2 sort of expansion of Future World. And Horizons is the only attraction that actually captured all of the different points of Future World. So you have all the different pavilions. Horizons embodied all of those in one attraction. So it's it's an interesting thing. Again, let's talk about ride systems that were completely ahead of their time. Here you have this sort of suspended omnimover that takes you through how people saw the future, and then the sort of late 70s, early 80s version of the future, and then lets you select how you get back to reality and everything. The whole interactivity of it at that time is just unfathomable, how that was all pulled off with projectors and electrical cabinets at the time and everything. It's just incredible. But just such an immersive attraction. It was a long attraction too. It was such a huge show building where you went through all these different experiences. But that guy right there, that is the thing I remember from my childhood, that the vacuuming robot. I'm obsessed with this guy. I'm actually here. I got a prop. I've been building my own version of him. So here's the head in progress right now. So yeah, when I started out at Imagineering, this guy, the actual one from the attraction, was right outside my office. I can walk out, and he was sitting there for the longest time, just kind of sitting in the hallway and everything. And I would go and get like right up to it and stare at it, and it looks cool when it's in the attraction, but when you're looking right at it, it's kind of crappy. It's made out of like paper mache and spray paint and like glue on sequins and things like that. But yeah, I mean, just like all the different pieces. This is Jules Verne. This is the vision of the future. So it literally hit all the notes.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah. Just so many different things. And then the emotional soundtrack of going through, which when you hear versions of it today, you go through Epcot and you hear kind of remixed versions of the track and everything. It's just such an emotional experience. But this attraction, I mean, let's face it, it was a little dated by the time they took it out. 95, I guess, is when it, I guess, officially closed. But man, so many things about this that were way before its time. And personally, this attraction is something that influences my design. So
cool. So before we move on, folks, I know we have several people watching. If you guys want to chime in with any of your favorite dark rides, we'd love to hear them.
And then we can roast you.
What's that?
And then we'll roast you.
And then we'll roast you. Like, why would you say that? No, we all love all rides everywhere. There's no wrong rides ever created anywhere. So
sure.
This next ride really it kind of defined my whole entire life, theme park wise. So I remember going to Disneyland as a kid, and the 45th or 40th anniversary came about in 1995-ish, and the Indiana Jones adventure was opening up, and I was there like 2 weeks before the official opening for what would have been a soft open. I didn't know what a soft open was. All I know is that now I know that that's what they were doing. And my family and I, we waited in like a 4-hour line back when that really was a 4-hour line all the way out to Main Street. And I remember being completely blown away by the attraction. This kind of like Indiana Jones Adventure kind of redid everything. Like it's the modern day e-ticket, really changed the game in a lot of ways, Yeah,
reestablish what we consider an e-ticket, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we did have Splash Mountain, which was really fantastic a few years prior. We had that was a fantastic ride, but like just Indiana Jones Adventure, mixing of ride systems and putting simulator on a vehicle blew it away. I mean, it just starts off where you're, you know, at least in the version at Disneyland, you're in an unassuming Adventureland. You come across a temple. There's such a sense of discovery. First, of course, you got to get your decoder. Remember doing this, waiting in those lengthy queues, give you something to do, being able to translate. You know, and it feels like they kind of did that at Galaxy's Edge a little bit too, creating a language, super fun. You have interactive cues. You have, you know, scene ones, being able to pull on the rope or cause the spikes to go down. Really fantastic stuff, and such a beautiful queue. And it's so funny because it was the lengthy queue is kind of built out of necessity because they have to go outside of the perimeter of the monorail. Well, move the monorail and outside the perimeter of the park in general. And then, of course, you know, this is kind of like a publicity shot, which is just so silly. And you get onto your ride vehicle, and I think you get, this is a concept art, but I stand behind the fact that the reveal for the temple room at Indiana Jones Adventure is the best reveal in any theme park anywhere.
It's Chuck Ballou art, by the way. Chuck Ballou worked on that attraction. He made some terrific renderings for that.
And it's really not too far. Like, you know, it's not too far off that what happens. You know, when you crest over that edge and you go down the staircase, the vehicle has been timed to go right in front of you, go out. The other ride vehicles are part of the show too. And it's just, unfortunately, it's like the best photo I can find, but it's absolutely fantastic. And then you get to I think the best, coolest finale of any attraction ever, which is the rolling ball scene. I'm not sure if you guys agree on that, but I think it's the most, when it's working, is the best effect ever created on a dark ride. And every time I'm going there and the ball's coming at me and I'm getting that close to it, I just break out in hysterical laughter and screams, and it gets me every single time. Every time.
Unless you stop there. Well, sometimes the ride cascades and you're there for
that's true.
5 minutes and like, dude, you've got plenty of time to jump in this car right now.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, this is an industry show, and I know people probably know how that scene works, but in case you don't, come watch this video.
Oh, that's how it works. See, I always assumed people pushed the ball back up after that.
So I think that's just so cool. I like to look down at the floor and see the whole car wash effect happen. But we know that like they didn't want to pay to have the vehicles go forward and backward. It was a lot cheaper to just go forward and make this whole entire system around it, which makes you go look like you're feeling going backward and all that. And 99.999% of people have no idea that that's how that's done. Like they have no idea. Like, and I don't think there's that many effects out there that truly blow people away like that.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. Like I wish we had Indiana Jones Adventure here, because it's like when I go to Disneyland, the California, that's like why I really go, is because I love that. Now, I used to work at Disneyland for many years, so I've been there, done that, all that kind of good stuff. But that ride is fantastic.
Yeah. And so many things about it, like talking shop, right? Like queue lines. No one ever spends that much money on a queue line ever. Like there's some necessity to it, but again, there's so many lavish spins in that attraction, and like effects that partially went in that like just were experiments. Like the when Indy opened, there was the ice that fell from the roof, and when you're going right past the Mara scene, if you actually look down, the sets are only painted till about 6 feet up. Everything below that is black because there used to be this fog curtain or this sort of layer of fog on the ground that the minute Indy closed the door, all that fog got sucked out. All of those are super expensive effects. So I can just imagine the like truck of money that drove up to Imagineering at that time to like build this attraction. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
And it's really like just like the ride system that I've seen Tony Baxter talk about it. Like, they wanted to have a ride system where you feel like you're running along with it, and they nailed it. It's a thrill ride just enough, and huge fan. But I mean, this isn't the Indiana Jones Adventure show. There are other things to get to. So, Andy, why don't you go ahead and take it away and talk about your next attraction, which would be right here.
Well, I chose this one because I got to go on it a few years ago, and I want to start off by saying I loved Shanghai Disneyland. I really loved it. I went into it like ready to hate it, I hated the pictures of the castle that I saw, and I hated it way less when I saw it in person, even though it's monstrous. But I was really charmed by the whole park. And one of, I think, the highlights, there were 2 or 3 attractions that really stood out, but I want to talk about this one because the closest analogy that I could think of is that if the Peter Pan's flight at Disneyland and Disney World is Alien, this is Aliens, the Peter Pan's flight, where it's like it's the same movie but turned up to 11.
Nice.
It's scene for scene exactly like Peter Pan's flight at Disneyland, but it's massive. I did a little scene scene by scene, like if you that's okay. So like for instance, like in Disneyland, you come right out of the load right into this scene, right into the bedroom, which is like a fraction of the size of this show set. And you've got these beautiful animatronics that are floating in magical ways. And leading up to it, you actually fly alongside the house between the townhouses, and you see Peter Pan projected animated 2D animated figure or animated character flying into the window. And then you see the animatronics there. And then when you fly through that room and you fly out the window, it's like a hugely expanded like neighborhood set. And then you turn a corner and get to London, and there's the projections, the 2D hand animated projections of the characters, just like from the films, on the clouds. And it's just, I just thought, number one, it's again, it's a unique ride system, from day one in 1955. It's so unusual. And it makes such good use of the the top down view, and I don't know, I was so charmed. I mean, I went on this attraction probably more than any other while I was there in the 3 days I was there, to the point where I think it might have been my last ride. It was one of those things where like Shanghai Disney has this app where you can basically pay to cut the line. Literally, it's like, do you want to spend $20 to go on the Peter Pan right now? It's the 90-minute line. I'm like, yes, I do. And it's like an instant fast pass, and I did that.
It's called a bribe in America.
Yeah.
Right. But I did that more times than I care to admit for this ride, because I'd have lunch and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I want to go on it again before I leave. And I just thought it was just a really great expansion and interpretation of a classic existing ride, much how like sort of the Pooh's Honey Hunt, sort of like the reverse of that. But I was just so charmed by it and so wowed by it. There were so many wow moments. I think part of it was it was so familiar to me, and then it was just like a spectacular like dream version of that.
Yeah. Well, like Peter Pan in the U.S. parks is still an immensely popular attraction. I think it's because of how effective it is and unique. Like you have the overhead ride system, and it's just a beautiful sort of experience going through. And I thought they did such a great modernization of that and everything.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for, modernization. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also talk about how rare it is to go on a dark ride where something doesn't go wrong, right? That's always kind of like the thing that is the catalyst for getting you into an experience. This is just, you're going to go through this beautiful adventure and everything, and it's just such a wonderful story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and it's told just with sublime art direction, and the character designs all hold up and they're iconic.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to leave to go to an attraction I've never heard of. Jason, take it away.
So this is so we're going to go to an attraction. I don't want to say, like, I'm sorry if anyone worked on this attraction, but this was the antithesis of Peter Pan. This is an attraction that I ran into randomly. I didn't even know it existed at Huston-Bosch, which is a Dutch theme park in just outside of Nagasaki in Japan. So the image you're looking at is in the middle of Japan. It's not the Netherlands, and but you go in, and walking through the park, I randomly found a One Piece attraction. One Piece, yes, the anime favorite, One Piece, has an attraction inside of this Dutch theme park. And it uses a Peter Pan ride system, literally a flying boat system. Now, there are no pictures of the actual ride because there are none to be found. I've barely found videos of this thing. There aren't any pictures if you Google search this thing. Maybe if you Googled it in Japanese, you can find it, but I cannot find anything. But picture, if you will, going on Peter Pan, except they've replaced all of the show scenes with either video screens or very static still vignettes of the One Piece characters, but non sequitur, no real story to go through. It's literally just like, here's your favorite characters going through this attraction, and it is bizarre. Like, uses technology well. Like, there's different pieces inside of this, and like there's good video moments and good sculpts and things like that, but man, is it like so appropriately Japanese. It is like just such a weird like mind trip going through this whole thing. And so if you know me, I just love weird experiences. I can have a whole other show on like the weirdest attractions in the world, but I would put the One Piece for the New World, that's its subtitle. One Piece for the New World goes in like probably number 3 in the weirdest attractions in the world.
Well, there you go. Check it out next time you're Nagasaki or near Nagasaki. Well, all right. I'm up next with my final favorite ride of the night. This one is really changed the entire. It's another game changer, but this time from Universal Creative. Of course, it's all the same people that do Disney rides too. But it's the Wizarding World of Harry Potter with Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. Completely changed. I mean, that whole entire area was unprecedented with the level of immersion. And the Forbidden Journey attraction with the Kuka arms, the magic of that, all that good stuff. The queue, it really changed things for Universal. And I think the first time that Universal really kind of took a real shot at Disney. And they have the attendance and the huge capital to improve it. I went on this ride just like I talked about Pooh's Honey Hunt. And I was so disoriented on that ride, and I had no idea what had happened. The first time I went on, I kept my head completely back the entire time. And I had no idea how big or large the projection domes were. I had no idea. It was just so disorienting the entire time. And it was an absolute thrill. I love going on this ride whenever I'm there at the park. And the fun part about this, it's a beautiful setup for the exterior. Probably the best facade of almost any Universal attraction. That we get into some like beautiful facades that, it's a small world and things like this, but I mean, completely stunning setting. The queue is fantastic. Like I mentioned, great, effect with the talking portraits throughout the queue. Lots of just fully done, great, fantastic effects. And then of course, the almost the best part of the ride is just looking to your left or right while you're on it. So you can just marvel at the technological wizardry of Kuka arms going through a building, dispatching every 7 seconds, which is unreal and remarkable. That's what's going on. Particularly the projection domes kind of borrows from the old Journey into Your Imagination or Journey to the Imagination with Figment, where you'd have those revolving show sets, similar things. These are lining up with projection domes, which is absolutely amazing. And then going out of them. What's that?
And they're all moving while you go on them. It's crazy.
Yeah, they never stop.
Never stop. And the scale of the show sets, like the Whomping Willow, is it called, where it's like the huge tree coming at you. Just absolutely stunning. And I think it really, I don't want to say put Universal on the map, but they already were. But we know it revitalized Islands of Adventure. And as soon as they built it, every other park was going to get it. And it's fantastic. It's a fantastic ride. Fantastic.
Yeah, such a good use of that technology. I mean, we all knew Kuka arms were going to get repurposed for entertainment at one point, or not. But I mean, it took a lot of time and research to do that. But talk about like difficult ride systems. Like the ride system itself can kill you. Like it's it's just programming that's separating you from being mangled on that thing.
Very true. Very true.
So I mean, yeah, I got to work with Kuka Arms. I worked on Some of All Thrills at Disney, and saw how just difficult it was to figure out the physics for everything. But I don't know. It's just interesting use of that system. I thought they used it really well. Again, like, technology should always be in service to story. We always say that, but that one did it well. It didn't gratuitously use the ride system at all. In fact, I think they could have used it even more, and it could have been even greater. So great ride system and great use of it.
Yeah. Just love it. So with all of that, let's go ahead and wrap up with Andy. And of course, we're back at Universal for another fantastic attraction if you're into that sort of thing. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah, this was another game changer too. This was like sort of like the first game changer at Universal, right? It was, just, what, how many years? 12 years before Potter. But yeah, the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man was one of those attractions that changed the game, if you will, for the attractions industry, with the combination of the motion-based ride vehicle with the 3D screens and the squinching that went along with it, where as the vehicle moves through the scene and past the projection, the perspective in the media changes to match yours. And with the 3D, it's with now, especially with the new media, it's to me, it's really seamless. But and then the combination of the show sets, blending seamlessly with the media, and that incredible moment at the end where you're falling down towards the street, and all the physical sets of the windows of the building going up and all that stuff is it's so disorienting and so amazing and so thrilling that I get vertigo every time during that scene. My brain is just like, yeah, this is real, you're gonna die. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's a great property. It's I think it was just before the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie by like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man wasn't huge like it is now, or like it was certainly like it was, after the Raimi films came out. But it was. I think it's an incredible use of the IP. I love the moment that you have on screen where the pumpkin guy throws the pumpkin at the flaming pumpkin at you, and you get the heat blast with the pyro blast and everything. It's just a seamless blend of show action elements and media, and I think it's a great integration. I think that's sort of like the thing that ties all of the attractions together that I was talking about today is a seamless use of physical show sets and media.
The pumpkin guy, Hobgoblin, man, get it
Hobgoblin,
right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Minus 2 nerd points for you. Minus 2 nerd points.
So sorry, Marvel fans. So sorry.
This is definitely like the ride that's like the benchmark that people are like, is it as good as Spider-Man? Like, it is the attraction that, even as attractions from Universal have come out, it's still a toss up. People say, I don't know, Forbidden Journey versus Spider-Man, or Green Guts, or whatever their latest, Fast and Furious versus Spider-Man. It's always the one that people put up to. And if you're into media, which it's a tool that you use, it is the most seamless integration of its time, where if you buy into the 3D aspect and you're in it and you're a part of it, the blending of it, and like you said, that quick changing set technology, like, it is the template that everyone tries to copy. We all know there's parks that try to do it, and it's just, they did it best. And they the way that and even when they did Transformers is different. It doesn't feel the same as Spider-Man, in my point of view. Not to get too in the weeds on it, but like, Spider-Man just is really successful about knowing who the bad guy is, knowing who the good guy is, and tracking with what is going on, even though it's a lot of chaos. And sometimes newer attractions, there's so much going on, you have no idea where you fall in the story. And it's just like, it's so fantastic, that the way that it interacts, and the way they they cover your field of vision and make sure they know exactly where you're looking, just like a movie. You know, that never really happened before. I mean, Haunted Mansion can do that with the Omniverse, but even then, you know, there's the show sets are so big. This one really is pointing exactly where you want to go. And if you look behind you, or you look up, or you look down, you know, you're going to see things that you don't want to. But that's only us, right?
Yeah. But
go ahead, Andy. I was just gonna say it's just such a wholesome adventure too, right? Like you talk about the difference between that and Transformers. There's just this like wholesome quality to Spider-Man, and not to mention the fact that you have like fire and anytime you put actual fire into an attraction, it's just this primal thing that comes out and everything. So it has everything going for it.
And that great fog effect, you know, where you're spinning around in the tunnel, you're just totally disoriented. I also want to do an honorable mention, if I could, since it's really not a dark ride, but one of my favorite rides, since we're doing favorite rides, is the Hogwarts Express. It's not really a dark ride. I mean, I guess technically it might be. I don't know, but that's one of my most favorite rides in any park. It's such a, you know, talk about the queue and then the reveal of the ride vehicle and the loading and unloading process and the transportation, like transformative nature of the attraction, where how often do you get to go on an attraction where you start in one park and end up in another one, and you know, you feel like you've gone on a real journey. I think it's incredible. I just think that that's so magical, really truly magical.
Yeah
and well, if we're gonna add things, I will I think that Rise of the Resistance is the greatest attraction ever built. I didn't mention it, but because you know, I think a lot of people know of it already, and I've been on it. I'm blown away by it. But I just shed light on more lesser known attractions like Pooh's Honey Hunt and Indiana Jones and Forbidden Journey. But I think Rise of the Resistance is the greatest attraction ever built, in my point of view. I'm not sure you guys follow on that, but I just think it's fantastic. But it's like several attractions in one, so it's kind of, you know, it's cheating.
Sadly, I was supposed to go on it the week of the lockdown, so.
Yeah, I think Rise is the Spider-Man of this time. I mean, that is the next bar-setting attraction that, just from beginning to end, is such a different experience. It sits in a category of its own for sure.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Jason, I hope we were nice to you, and I hope you enjoyed being on the show.
Yeah, had a good time.
Fun talking dark rides. And we had a lot of comments in the feed, mostly Joe Fox. He said Mystic Manor. We did talk about Mystic Manor in our side chat, so we know that's a beloved attraction. And he's recommending watching Horizons. So can do that. Let's see what else he says. He said fantasizes about doing an updated version of Horizons in the same way they did with Peter Pan.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, it's like a lottery ride. It's like, okay, I won $300 million in the lottery. I'm going to open up a park where it's just the updated Horizons attraction.
It belongs in a museum.
Right.
Yeah. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back we'll be back next Monday night, 9 o'clock. And I actually, next week, you know, who knows? Things might be opening. Like we know, I mean, Disney Springs, Universal City Walk, we know parks, things are opening. So we'll probably be covering a little bit of that. I doubt I'll be going back to work anytime soon, but it's going to be interesting to see what's going on as parks are announcing their opening. So we'll be back next week, folks. Until then, Jason, thanks for joining. And
thank you very much.
Pleasure as usual. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.
All right.